Canada. Now, I want you to go and get a pen and paper and be ready to take down some numbers because we have that wonderful competition going on for Michael Schumacher's helmet. And it's your chance to get going with that this time round. And Alan Jones, I've had amazing response to this. Wherever I've been, people are saying, I want to win this helmet.
Well, likewise, I was up in Brisbane at the Motorsport Expo Friday, Saturday and today, and hello to all the people, and thanks for coming up and saying hello to me. But yes, fantastic interest in the helmet. The amount of people that mentioned it and said, right, it starts tonight, I'm going to win it, it was great.
Yeah, great. I hope, well, of course, only one person can win it, but you can try as many times as you like. Details in a moment. Let's have a look at qualifying. The grid's an interesting one. Tim Gilbert has all the details.
The Gilles Villeneuve circuit, and understandably his son was given a great hometown reception. A good day for Jacques in the BAR, qualifying 6th fastest for his home race. Not such a good day for Dutchman Jos Verstappen, who clipped the edge of the track in his arrows. The session was halted while they cleaned up the circuit, but nothing could stop Michael Schumacher and his Ferrari, taking his 5th pole of the season. A breath away in second place, David Coulthard in the McLaren. Schumacher fully aware of how close the Scotsman is getting.
Obviously, David is getting stronger and stronger, and so I have to keep worry for him as well. Naturally, after the past 2 years, you had to think more about Häkkinen because he won 2 championships, and David was slightly behind. Now he's giving a big challenge to him, and it might turn around.
Rubens Barrichello in the second Ferrari was disappointed, finishing 3rd fastest.
No, it couldn't be better. I mean, I thought it was quite unlucky today because you know, I had all the flags. I was in the middle of the red flag. Then at the end, I had traffic as well. So it was really unlucky because the car was better than what I've you know, the 18.8 that I've done it, and so I really thought that I had a shot on pole position.
Alongside the Brazilian on the second row, world champion Mika Häkkinen, who definitely has some catching up to do. Rounding out the top 6 in 5th position, beside Villeneuve, Heinz Harald Frentzen in the Jordan.
Well, there we go. Some interesting things down. Let's have a look now as we talk about the helmet giveaway. But first of all, let's go to the grid positions, Jonesy, because Schumacher's on pole. Coulthard there, gee, really is throwing out the challenge.
Yeah, not too different really, Daz. You know, we've got 2 Ferraris and 2 McLarens on the two front rows. Frentzen, good, and Jacques Villeneuve. What a great qualifying result from him in 6th position. And truly in 7th now, Villeneuve's teammate Zonta. So the BARs are obviously going very well in Montreal. De La Rosa, good from him. Fisichella, Johnny Herbert, I think that's probably one of his best qualifying results this year in the Jaguar. Verstappen, 3rd, Salo, Eddie Irvine back in 16, Lacey 17th, Jason Button down in 18th. Now I believe there's a bit of pressure on him this weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Denez, Genet, Heinfeld and Messicane in the Minardi.
Yeah, Jenson Button having a problem. First time at the circuit though, Jonesy, but there is a bit of pressure. They reckon this is the night he's got to prove himself.
Yeah, I don't know really. I mean, I think Frank's got more brains than that. I mean, he's gone to a circuit he's never been to before. It's not an easy circuit. They don't appear to be going very well anyway, the Williams on this particular circuit. I don't think Frank would actually say to him, we're going to evaluate your performance this weekend and see whether you're in the team for next year or not. It's putting unbelievable pressure on the kid, and I think he's done a wonderful job to this stage, I really do.
Alrighty, let's go have a look at this helmet giveaway because it's fantastic. Wyboulder Sports and F1 Racing Magazine are giving you, the one lucky viewer, the chance to win this limited edition Michael Schumacher signature helmet. Now, it's valued at around about $5,000, I think a bit more than that. To put yourself in the running for this fantastic prize, just dial 1902 554 632. 1902 554 632 and register your details. Now the lines are open 24 hours a day and you can enter as many times as you like. Entries close at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, 16th of July, and we'll be announcing the winner later that night during our coverage of the Austrian Grand Prix. So get dialing, work those fingers to the bone on the phone and win this fantastic piece of motor racing memorabilia thanks to Wyboulder Sports and F1 Racing Magazine. And of course, the latest edition you're looking at there, it's in your newsstands now, and it is the Bible of motorsport in this country. No doubt about that. 1997 world champion Jacques Villeneuve has reportedly struck a deal with Benetton that could see him join the outfit as early as next year. Now, the deal is rumoured to be worth around $15 $15 million for the first year, around $20 million for the second. Now that puts a cloud over Craig Pollock's future with BAR, since his involvement in the team has always been based on the proviso that his protege Jacques Villeneuve was driving for them. Reports suggest that British American Tobacco are looking to sell off BAR to the highest bidder and that Honda would be the likely buyer. But the tobacco company is allegedly asking upwards of $170 million, which Honda consider a little bit too much. So it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. Look, you know, it's fascinating, all of this, because it's one thing for Honda to front up with the dosh and buy the team, but then who's going to run it? I mean, the reason that they're in there in the first place is because of the management structure, which they believe are pretty good, and so do I for that matter. I'm just hoping that Villeneuve's not jumping ship a little bit too early. Admittedly, Briatore's got a good proven track record with Benetton. Renault are back in there now as owners of the team and developing the engine. So he's either jumping in at exactly the right time or he's abandoning the ship at the wrong time from BAR, because Honda have also a very good reputation for building Formula One engines. It's only their first year back with BAR. Maybe they're just getting it all together. So a very interesting quandary for him. I mean, does he go to what he believes is going to be a proven team, or is he jumping ship too early?
Yeah, well, time will tell. And of course, they're also talking to Ralf Schumacher, so it's interesting. A lot of news to get through. We'll do that. We'll give you some more information during the warm-up lap. Let's take a break now, come back. There's live pictures coming in from Canada now. Welcome back, cars, on the warm-up lap now. Jonesy, a couple of bits of interest here. Michelin are set to re-enter Formula One, the arena, next year. Now, they've hinted at introducing a new colour scheme for their tyres. Michelin proposed to introduce a different colour, is mainly intended to make their product easily recognisable from that of the competitor Bridgestone. This happened in America, and they had all the good old boys fitting coloured tyres to all the big pickups.
Yeah, well, I think BF Goodrich did it for the homeboys, and they had all the different coloured tyres on their cars. But it'd be quite interesting. I mean, we know that Williams is going to Michelin, so they might have white and blue ones, and if Jordan went, they'd have yellow ones. Good on them, I think it's good.
Good stuff. And finally, this is very good information. James Courtney finished first in round 7 and second in round 8 of the British Formula 4 Championships held at Silverstone last weekend. Now, the Sydney teenager leads the series by 19 points from the Englishman Mark Taylor. He is just doing everything right. I say it every week, but gee, I'm really proud of this kid. He's come from way down the bottom and he's getting near the top.
No, he is. He's planning his career very, very sensibly. He brained him in go-karting. He's now gone into Formula Ford. He looks like he's well on his way to winning the British Formula Ford Championship. Very big future.
Now, there is a hint of rain. They think it could rain during the race. They're talking about a one-stop. I noticed David Coulthard had some trouble getting off the line there.
Yeah, I don't know whether it locked into gear, but right at the 11th hour, they had the back of the car jacked up and let it down at the last minute. So let's hope we don't see any more of that. This circuit is extremely hard on brakes, so if it does rain, it might alleviate a few of the problems that some of the teams are having. I know Barrichello's in a few brake problems.
They're just changing the discs. Remember last year, Heinz-Harald Frentzen had a disc explode here.
Exactly.
You like this circuit?
Yeah, I do. I love it. I think it's a great atmosphere.
And they're on the grid. And also, while we were talking about Briatore, Ralf Schumacher's also being courted there as well.
Well, another Schumacher back at Benetton with Briatore steering the ship wouldn't be bad.
All right, let's go over to Murray Walker now. Martin Brundle for our coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix live here on Wide World of Sports.
So Monaco for the second year in succession. He went back to Italy to check on his starting.
Look at this, Murray. Both Ferraris pointing to the right, both McLarens pointing to the left. They're heading towards each other before they even get away.
Fifth light and then it goes out. Action! Schumacher leads. Coulthard is second. Hakkinen is third. Barrichello is dropping down through the field. Rubens Barrichello's had a bad start, and Jack Villeneuve's had an absolute flyer. He's come up from sixth on the grid to third, and Eddie Irvine is left standing in the Jaguar. Has the Jaguar affliction, that bad clutch problem, struck again? It certainly looks like it. But a monumentally quick start from Jacques Villeneuve ahead of Rubens Barrichello in the BAR. Eddie Irvine being pushed off the grid, the first retirement, I presume, of this year's Canadian Grand Prix. Jacques Villeneuve has done it again, and Canada will be absolutely euphoric about that.
It's a short lap here, but they're already pushing Irvine past our commentary position. They've got about 100 metres to go. before they clear him. They will clear him in time, Murray. I do not anticipate the pace car. Dream start for Schumacher and Coulthard, and that's a problem there. The BAR Villeneuve is not on the same pace as Ferrari and McLaren. He is going to be a real nuisance now for Barrichello and Hakkinen. This is a two-horse race.
Bad news for Mika Hakkinen in his efforts to make it 3 World Championships in a row. Let's have another look. Watch Michael Schumacher sprint away, but watch on the left Jacques Villeneuve. You see, there he is. He's already past Rubens Barrichello, who has to brake to avoid David Coulthard, who gets ahead of Villeneuve and goes through. Jacques Villeneuve up into 3rd position now. We're going to see it with the French-Canadian. He's past Frentzen on the left. There is Coulthard in front of him. Barrichello is passed by Villeneuve, and now he goes up into still 4th position. He's got the inside line. He squeezes David Coulthard out, and there he is again.
It's Hakkinen he's squeezing out, Murray. Coulthard was ahead of them, so it's Barrichello away poorly, Hakkinen away reasonably. Hakkinen brakes too early for the first corner. Villeneuve goes right around the outside, and that then pushes Hakkinen behind even Barrichello as they scrabbled out of that turn 2. And that is how it all happened, and that's released these two cars now out into the lead.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Martin. Jacques Villeneuve is going to hold them up, so it is between race leader Michael Schumacher, 2nd place man David Coulthard, the first 2 in the World Championship, and Barrichello is attacking.
Yes, somebody, I think it was possibly even Della Rosa past Frentzen into Della Rosa there, look, up into 6th place, having just nailed Frentzen into the casino hairpin. So Della Rosa very much on the move in the Arrows.
Yeah, and he started an excellent 9th. The Arrows is getting better and better. So there is Villeneuve and Barrichello and Hakkinen, and in 6th place is Della Rosa. Frentzen down into 7th position. And this Canadian Grand Prix has got a long way to go. Here is the replay of Della Rosa coming down to the hairpin, nipping through on the inside of Heinz-Harald Frentzen's Jordan with its Mugen engine.
Yes, Frentzen asleep there. I don't think he really expected an Arrows to be coming up the inside of him like that. You've got to assume that Della Rosa is... you've got to assume that Della Rosa is on low fuel. I'm just looking at the computer here. Investigation involving car 2 by the stewards. I've got a sneaky feeling that Coulthard was rolling on the start, that Coulthard was underway, and we know he maybe had a clutch problem anyway, so we're watching that closely. It's possible Coulthard jumped the start, in my view. I did see his wheels. James, what can you tell us in the pits?
Yeah, does seem to be a feeling down here that there may be a problem with Coulthard, and it certainly is relating to the start. The stewards are looking at it. It'll be about 15 to 20 minutes probably before they make any kind of decision. There is a maximum time, of course, about 25 minutes. On Della Rosa, though, I was talking to 1 or 2 of the engineers just on the start line who are in front of him, of teams from in front of Della Rosa on the grid. They were saying, we're going to really worry about that guy. The Arrows hasn't got a big enough fuel tank to do a 1-stopper here, so he has to go 2. He's going to be cutting through like a hot knife through butter.
James, you're absolutely right, because as you said it, we saw Della Rosa attacking Hakkinen. He's coming towards us on the screen now. Hakkinen in the silver and black McLaren. Della Rosa from Spain, from Barcelona, in the orange Arrows. And he's pulling well away from Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is in 7th position. David Coulthard, though, is the fastest man on the circuit. There is only 7/10 of a second now between Michael Schumacher in the lead and David Coulthard in 2nd position, and there is 4.5 seconds between Coulthard, who is 2nd, and Villeneuve, who is holding up Barrichello, Hakkinen, Della Rosa and Frentzen behind him. There's the proof, look at it.
I can't be absolutely sure Coulthard jumped the start, but I do have a feeling I could see his front wheels turning, but it was a very close call. Or maybe, just maybe, it was the fact that the mechanics were on the track, Murray, once the green flag had been waved, starting Coulthard's car up.
Well, we're going to know the position soon. It would be terrible for David if he was delayed in any way with a time penalty, because he's the only man in the race against Michael Schumacher at the present moment. I'm now going to stick my neck out, but Michael Schumacher seems at this stage of the race just to need to keep going to get yet another victory, as Della Rosa in the background attacks Mika Hakkinen.
Yes, Della Rosa not quite got enough speed. That McLaren Mercedes-Benz got plenty of grunt, as we know, but Della Rosa there well in McLaren, in the Hakkinen slipstream, but couldn't do anything about it, and surely he has a significantly lower fuel load.
Now, the Canadian Grand Prix Gilles Villeneuve circuit on the Ile Notre Dame is an easier track to pass on than many of them. but Jacques Villeneuve there is not going to be relinquishing his position, his third position, to Rubens Barrichello likely, and Barrichello will have to pick his chance very carefully indeed. Probably down to the hairpin which they're approaching now would be where Rubens chooses to attack. But this is a low downforce circuit, and the BAR car goes extremely well here in comparison with Monaco, where it went very badly as a high downforce track.
Yes, Mika Häkkinen struggling there with a bit of traction out of turn 7 and allowed De La Rosa to get even closer. This pair up front are a full 1.3 seconds a lap faster than that following pack just coming into view now, headed by Villeneuve. Exactly what you'd expect. That's the kind of pace advantage they have got, but clearly Barrichello and Häkkinen can do nothing about even getting close to the back of that BAR, let alone overtaking it.
So on lap 5 with 64 still to go as we watch Villeneuve third, Häkkinen having a look at Barrichello and dodging back in again. De La Rosa in 6th position. They're all being held up by Villeneuve. And now David Coulthard is 5 seconds ahead of this battle, and he is just one second behind Michael Schumacher. So it's Schumacher, Coulthard, Villeneuve, Barrichello, Häkkinen, De La Rosa. Frentzen is 7th, Zonta is 8th, Trulli is 9th, and Jos Verstappen in the second Arrows is 10th. The Arrows are going extremely well.
Yes, Jenson Button unfortunately has slipped back to 19th position. Johnny Herbert down in 12th. Eddie Irvine did join the race, but 2 laps down.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Jaguar, but you heard from Jim Rosenthal earlier on that this is very much a race of attrition, always is. If more than 10 cars finish this race, I'm going to be pretty surprised. 22 started it, 22 are still running, but already Eddie Irvine is 2 laps behind the race leader, who is on his 6th lap. Oh.
Well, this is the problem we've seen so many times, Murray, I mean, for example, when Häkkinen was catching Salo in Monaco, a full 1.5 seconds a lap faster than him, as soon as he got anywhere near his slipstream, couldn't get any closer, and we've seen it happen so often. It's a problem with the aerodynamics on the cars, and we know for a fact the Ferrari and the McLaren are 1.5 seconds faster than Jacques Villeneuve, and they just can't do anything about it, and that's why this man, De La Rosa, can stay with that McLaren of Häkkinen.
Yeah, and these pictures, these fabulous pictures, just underline what supermen these Formula One drivers are, because they're driving at speeds up to 200 miles an hour here. You can see them jostling for position with those 18,000 RPM engines spinning behind them, some 800 horsepower. And you can see that, like Monaco, this place is all Armco and walls. There is virtually nowhere to go if you go off. Yes, it's better than Monaco, where the track and the Armco are virtually one. There are some small runoff areas here, but you've got to be millimetrically perfect in your positioning of the car. And if you've got someone in front of you and someone trying to pass you behind, that's very difficult as we ride with David Coulthard. And now, coming towards us on lap 7, Michael Schumacher leads. David Coulthard is second. Look back down the track, and the gap is now 8-9 seconds between Coulthard in the silver and black McLaren and Jacques Villeneuve in 3rd position in the BAR. Coulthard exits that notorious turn 15.
I just hope they're not going to penalise Coulthard's car or anything he's done. I hope he gets away with that, because we really do need to have somebody out there keeping Michael Schumacher honest through the afternoon. And Coulthard's the only man in a position to do that at the moment, with Barrichello and Häkkinen still tucked up behind the BAR. And look, that sort of almost mandatory 50 metres behind they seem to have to follow. They'll turn into the corner in the dirty air. The car will understeer, the front will slide. You can't get on the power quite as early. The harder you try, the worse it becomes, and it's just stalemate.
Now, the interesting thing about the situation as it is now is that Michael Schumacher has always regarded Mika Häkkinen as his main rival for the year 2000. But things are starting to change. David Coulthard is ahead of his teammate in the championship, and Michael Schumacher admitted last night that he's now regarding David as a real threat too, and the proof is down there on the track here in Canada, because Coulthard is the only man who is holding a candle to Michael Schumacher. And that candle is underneath the Ferrari's rear wing, because Coulthard is now within half a second of Schumacher's Ferrari as Villeneuve comes towards us. They're doing 200 miles an hour here. This is where they brake. This is one of the places where the brakes take a tremendous pounding in Canada.
Yes, Barrichello dangerously close to the wall there. I think he had a bit of a bobble on the way into that last chicane and had to mind himself on the way out. Gave Villeneuve a little bit of a clearance and put Hakkinen right underneath the Ferrari's gearbox once again.
Well, let's look back and remind ourselves that we're very lucky, because everybody did get round that first corner. I frankly didn't expect it. It hadn't happened for the last 2 years. We've got a clean, straight fight out on the track now on lap 9 with 60 to go. James Allen has news for us.
Murray, if you look very closely at Barrichello, he's very nervous on the brakes. On the grid, as Martin said, there was a real big drama. I've not seen one like that for a while with Ferrari. They were changing his brake disc right up until 5 minutes before the start of this race, and Rubens was very, very anxious. You can see he's reluctant to attack Villeneuve from the back. What was interesting about the incident on the grid was that Hakkinen was standing next to me, looking right over as they changed the brake disc. Hakkinen was aware of how Barrichello felt about it. Watch out for an attack from him.
Well, if they've changed brake discs, Martin, on Barrichello's car, and he hasn't used them before, surely he's going to be worried about the characteristics.
No, they'll be sorted by now. They're pretty consistent. I mean, they're baked for about 3 months, these brake discs. They're incredibly expensive items. Usually the first 3 or 4 corners are a bit of an unknown quantity. They settle down very quickly. Barrichello will have the measure of them already, I would imagine, and Hakkinen at the moment's got more of a problem with De La Rosa trying to get past him than he has a chance of getting past Barrichello. De La Rosa having just slipped back as I'm talking about it.
Well, I tell you, it's going to need dynamite to move Jacques Villeneuve off the best racing line. BAR scored no World Championship points last year. Yes, they've got World Championship points this year. Indeed, they're 6th in the Constructors' contest, but they've never had a podium position. They've never finished in the top 3. And Jacques Villeneuve is hungry, very hungry indeed, to win. There is even talk that he has already signed for the Renault team next year. Well, his contract expires with BAR this year. It is a rumour, I emphasise that. There's a lot of them flying about here in Montreal. But Villeneuve, if he can finish on the podium, will be much more likely to stay where he is.
Yes, Villeneuve hasn't signed for anybody next year yet. He's playing the field a little bit and understanding what's available to him, whilst, of course, trying desperately hard not to upset the team he's currently driving for and may continue to drive for. So Villeneuve playing a bit of the diplomat at the moment, not his best feature normally, but Jacques is definitely playing the field a little bit.
And Jacques is powered, we're with him now, by a Honda, not a Mugen Honda, a Honda Works engine, and they're looking for success from BAR, and it's significant at the present moment that the Honda engine is in 3rd position. The highest Mugen Honda engine is the Jordan of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's in 7th position with Jarno Trulli in 8th position, and they're sandwiching Ricardo Zonta in the 2nd BAR with its Works Honda engine. Top 10, lap 11 out of 69. Schumacher is going faster and faster. He's just made the fastest lap of the race. He's extended his lead over David Coulthard, but not by much, to 9/10 of a second. They're 14 seconds ahead of this battle. Villeneuve, Barrichello, Hakkinen and De La Rosa, who is 6th. Behind De La Rosa, 7th is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, 2.5 seconds behind De La Rosa. 8th is Zonta, 9th is Jarno Trulli, 10th is Jos Verstappen. So both the orange arrows are in the top 6, top 10.
Well, it was declared that there was an incident being investigated on Coulthard's car at 6 minutes past the hour here in Montreal. We're now 18 minutes past the hour, so I think we're within the next few minutes we will hear if there's any news on Coulthard's race so far. We're going to take a short break, be back very shortly.
Welcome back to Montreal in Canada. Well, it's a black day for David Coulthard. Just seconds ago, they've announced he's been penalised 10 seconds for that starting incident. AJ?
Yeah, I mean, that is just, I mean, he can't do anything right, poor old David. I mean, I know he had trouble with the car at the start of the warm-up. They had the back of the car jacked up. Whether it was a clutch problem that I don't know. We still don't know whether he's been penalised. There's a bit of contention about whether it was creeping at the start or whether he passed Barrichello on the warm-up lap. Now, I would doubt very much whether he'd be penalised for passing Barrichello on the warm-up lap, because to have done that, Barrichello must have passed him somewhere along the line. I would suggest it was for creeping at the start, and here he comes in now to take the penalty with the clutch problems that he's... But what a shame, he's getting fastest lap. He was the only bloke taking the challenge up to Schumacher, and now he's going to be back down in midfield.
Back to Murray.
It is over. They cannot change tyres. They cannot touch the car in any way. James.
Really resigned atmosphere down here. I think they thought straight after the start there was going to be problems. The mechanics only just got out of the way on the parade lap. It was a real mess. Coulthard's engine rises. He shoots out again. He's got a lot of work to do. He's lost 25 seconds here. He's going to lose another 25 with his first stop. It's going to be very interesting to see if he can make it up again.
10.
And they're streaming through. Verstappen has gone through and he's in 9th position. You're absolutely right, Martin. David Coulthard is rejoining in, I think, there he is.
10th.
In 10th position behind Jos Verstappen.
Yes, Verstappen was 23.9 seconds behind Coulthard. So that's, and there's looks like there's an ailing. No, we've gone to a different pack of cars now. So Coulthard rejoined in 10th place. Now he's got some work to do to come through. The afternoon is yet young, Murray. Still a long way to go in this race. But
yes,
of course, that's going to put him right into the pack that's stuck behind the BAR of Villeneuve. Michael Schumacher has got a 17.6 second gifted lead.
History is being made here in Canada because the BAR is not just in a podium position, it's in 2nd place. If anything happens to Michael Schumacher, Jacques Villeneuve could win this race, but there's a long, long, long way to go. David Coulthard then lost 25 seconds on that pit stop. Stopping, coming in, getting out again, and it's not just the 25 seconds, it's the fact that Verstappen, Trulli, Zonta, Frentzen, De La Rosa, Hakkinen, and Rubens Barrichello and Jacques Villeneuve are ahead of him. And although, as I said, it's easier to pass here than on many circuits, that doesn't mean to say it's easy.
That's the problem with the 10-second stop and goes. As I said, the mechanics can't touch the car, so you can't use that opportunity to save yourself time later in the race by taking on board more fuel or fresh tyres or whatever. Johnny Herbert out, a very early stop. You've got to assume that's some kind of major problem there for Johnny Herbert in the Jaguar. He would not be stopping at this time for tyres, and he's very slow, even with the speed limit in the pit lane.
And look at this battle now as Mika Hakkinen follows. Villeneuve 2nd, Barrichello 3rd, Hakkinen 4th, De La Rosa a magnificent 5th in the Arrows. 6th now in the points is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, the top Jordan. Zonta is up to 7th, Trulli is up to 8th, Verstappen is up to 9th, Johnny Herbert is out of the race. Eddie Irvine has already been lapped after the problem he had at the beginning of the race. So Jaguar, having looked a lot stronger at Monaco, have got no illusions about the fact that they've still got a lot of work to do.
Hakkinen very, very close, and Barrichello's going to have to defend the line. Hakkinen's got to go the long way round. He'll have a job getting round there, but Barrichello knew exactly what he had to do there. Hakkinen got a run on him out of the last chicane. But no position change, and it gave Villeneuve a little bit of breathing space. De La Rosa enjoying himself. I think that's until he has to pit much earlier than the 3 cars in front of him.
Yeah, I just saw a puff of smoke there. You always worry when you see a puff. It could be something entirely innocent. It could be a problem.
It was Barrichello's right front, without doubt, but often happens there just as the load transfers across the anti-roll bar at the front and the inside wheel goes light as you begin to turn the wheel while still on the brake pedal.
Well, now, Barrichello's got 2 problems. The first and most important one is to keep Mika Hakkinen behind him. He's entitled to make 1 blocking move, then the blue flags will be out, and if he gets more than 3 of them, he's going to be in real trouble, as up comes the Arrows, right on the rear wing of Mika Hakkinen's McLaren in 4th position. Pedro de la Rosa from Spain, who has been rumoured to be joining the BAR team next year, is really on a charge, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the yellow Jordan in the background in 6th position is catching this collection of cars, because Jacques Villeneuve is still making them go slower than they could ideally if they got past him.
Yes, I notice in the far background, Coulthard now has caught up with Verstappen and Trulli, so we'll see if he can make any progress through that little pack as we're watching the the first cluster really, fighting for second place of Villeneuve, Barrichello, Hakkinen, De La Rosa. Then it's 2 seconds back to Frentzen. And a little bit of space to Zonta, then it's truly Verstappen and Coulthard literally line astern. And look, are they showing us this because this is the reason that Coulthard was given the stop-go penalty? The green light is on, and mechanics are still on the track. I think that's contravening the regulations, so it's a technical knockout there for Coulthard in many respects, but he's still in the race. Johnny Herbert not looking too disappointed.
Martin, there ain't no justice, because if that was the reason that David Coulthard was penalised, to be sitting innocently in the car there and to suffer from something that was totally outside your control is very, very tough.
Murray, it's total justice. The rules are the rules. Even if I'm involved with Coulthard, the facts are, if they've contravened the regulation, they have to be penalised. You can't, just because he's having a good race, you can't. You know, you can't bend the rules when it suits you, and I think that if they've broken the rules, then obviously the penalty is valid.
I hear you, and you're right, I have to say. Lap 19 then, and look at Heinz-Harald Frentzen, look there at Zonta, look there at Trulli. Behind Trulli in the orange car is Verstappen. Now look for the silver and black one. It is David Coulthard. That is the car we're looking at. David Coulthard, the man who was harrying Michael Schumacher for so long until he had to come in, has caught right up with Jos Verstappen's arrows now. But even before he can get to grips with the front pack, he's got to try and get past Verstappen, Trulli and Zonta. A monumental task.
Yes, Jos will not be an easy man to pass. And because David, if he normally comes up behind an arrows during the race, he's got the assistance of loads of blue flags waving and the driver having to pull out of the way, because normally it's because he's being lapped. But the orange arrows are going exceptionally well here this afternoon, regardless of their fuel load, whatever that turns out to be. And it's not going to be an easy breeze past for Coulthard to make his way through this pack. Just got to keep his head at this stage of the race.
When you get into a period of comparative rule stability in Formula One, the teams that have got the money, that have built up an advantage, are caught by those who haven't got so much. And we're seeing it now, because this is a real motor race here at Montreal, as we look at the BAR, the Ferrari, the McLaren and the arrows of Pedro de la Rosa at the back in 5th position. Villeneuve keeping Barrichello behind him, who's keeping Hakkinen there behind him. 2 times world champion, Louise Goodman. What is it?
I'm standing here with Johnny Herbert, Murray. Johnny, your engine making some rather strange noises as it was pushed back into the garage. Is that the cause of your woe?
No, the engine's fine. It was early on. I was sort of just being able to hang on the back of Fizzy, and then I was sort of having some bad downshifts. They were very, very slow, and then when Ralph passed me, I couldn't get out. I couldn't get into second or first at the hairpin, so I was in third, and of course he got a run. Funnily enough, I got the gears the rest of the lap, and then when I got the hairpin again, I couldn't get below 4th, and then when I got to the chicane, I couldn't get below 5th. So it was gearbox problems, which is just damn frustrating, because we had a hell of a lot of problems in Monaco in the race, and another load of problems here after basically having sort of a better weekend.
Bad luck, Johnny.
Okay. Yes, and I can see in the pit lane that the Arrows men are out and ready for one of their 2 drivers. So happy hours over for those 2, I think. For sure they had a low fuel load. It's clear to see from very early. And there it is already. De La Rosa
coming in.
Out of 5th place. So a little bit of a false position, but nonetheless he was making good use of the strategy. That's going to push him a long way down. I don't really know. I think it's such a compromise to bring themselves in after just 20 laps. They look good for a little while, but maybe it's not going to score you any points.
Well, it means that Frentzen goes up to 5th, that Zonta is in 6th position. So for the first time ever, both BARs are in the top 6 point scoring positions. Jarno Trulli is 7th, Verstappen is in 8th position at the moment. David Coulthard, of course, has benefited because he has gained a place as a result of De La Rosa coming in. That's one man he hasn't got to worry about passing. Although David, of course, has got to come in and change tyres and take on more fuel, like all of them, except De La Rosa. Eddie Irvine's been in, Johnny Herbert has retired.
Yes, of course, if you're on a 2-stopper, everybody's got to stop one more time after that. But it means you've got a shorter stop. You've got less fuel to put in the car, which is regulated at about 12 litres per second. That's the only advantage of 2-stopping, slightly shorter pit stops. but surely it's not the right way to go this afternoon.
Well, Mika Häkkinen has got a bit of the pressure off him. Here he is in picture now. Mika Häkkinen in 5th position, at least has got to just worry about trying to get past Barrichello without also having to try to stop De La Rosa getting past him, because there's now a 3-car battle for second place and not a 4-car battle in the white BAR. Jacques Villeneuve in the scarlet Ferrari, Rubens Barrichello, who was second at Monaco, and then Mika Häkkinen. Mika Häkkinen not looking so good here, as he didn't look so good in Monaco. David Coulthard looking a lot better, and David is down in 9th position now as a result of that penalty.
Yes, you're right. Häkkinen no longer has to look in his mirror and be defensive anymore, but he still can't get much nearer to the back of Barrichello's car. But this just underlines, doesn't it, how important qualifying is, and then how important it is, and that's why you see them all through the weekend, all through practice, all through testing. They even go to special places to practice their starts. It's everything. It means you're hemmed in for the first half of the race at least if you don't get a good grip position and get away well.
And there the yellow Jordan of Heinz-Harald Frentzen is closing up in 5th position on Mika Häkkinen. So there is Zonta, there is Trulli, behind Trulli is Verstappen, behind Verstappen is David Coulthard, he is in 9th position. Here they come towards us now. Is somebody going to try for it? David Coulthard having a look at Verstappen. And we're with David now. This is the turn 15. Look how close they go to the concrete there. 3 people went into it last year. And now down to turn 1. One of the slowest corners on the circuit. And the Jordan gets a bit out of shape there. David Coulthard, we're looking forward from his McLaren now at Jos Verstappen's Supertech powered arrows.
Yes, one of those cars in front of him, I think Verstappen's car is putting out some fluid. We saw it on the camera lens, and we saw Coulthard trying desperately to wipe his visor as well. Something spitting out some fluid from the back of the cars. They shouldn't do that. They should be closed, ventilated systems. So Coulthard with a bit of a problem of visibility. But it just shows you, doesn't it? He's now lapping a second a lap slower than he was in the early part of the race. And looking out of the people out here, Murray, getting caps and coats on. They said it was going to rain about 1:30, and it has.
That was Ross. That was what Ross Brawn was keeping under his bonnet, I think, Martin, because yes, rain is forecast. All the teams have got wet weather tyres ready to slap onto their cars, but this could transform the race if it happens.
Yes, I looked into that a bit more after Ross said it, because it completely caught me off balance, because I hadn't heard about any rain at all. But certainly one or two of the front-running teams were expecting there was a percentage chance of rain at 1:30, and well, they were 5 minutes out. Pretty good nonetheless.
Well, here's Michael Schumacher, or there was Michael Schumacher. Here is Michael Schumacher, 23 seconds ahead of that battle now for second position. But Michael Schumacher has been way out in front in the past, only to have some sort of a problem, as he did at Monaco. And Barrichello having a look at Jacques Villeneuve. You see, Barrichello knows that if only he could get past the BAR, he could pull away from it. He's got more power, and the car handles beautifully. But Jacques Villeneuve is sticking on the racing line. He's not giving Barrichello any room. Meantime, Mika Häkkinen just sits back and watches.
Yes, if it gets slippery out there, I think it's going to be Villeneuve that struggles the most of that trio, because his car clearly has less downforce than the Ferrari. And that's Coulthard having a problem at turn 3. That's not what he needs to be doing if he wants to come through the field. So the track is clearly getting a little bit slippery.
Yeah, and I think it was Jean Alesi that we saw flying past him in the Prost, and he was in 12th position. So that could have cost David 3 more positions. But if the rain continues to come down, let's have a look and see what happened. We're with Coulthard now.
Oh, that's oil. That's oil on the track. I think you'll find the arrows has blown up or something. We said it was leaking fluids, but look, they're so nearly touched.
That's Verstappen.
But if a car swaps ends like that on you as you turn into a corner, it's almost certainly because there's oil or water on the racetrack, as now Barrichello starts to really harass the BAR of Villeneuve.
What an absolutely brilliant recovery by David Coulthard. It looked to me as though he got the nose of the McLaren tucked under the wing of the arrows, and Barrichello going through. Is he? Yes. But Villeneuve's got the inside line. And Barrichello keeps his foot down. This is great. And look at Häkkinen in the background. Villeneuve second, Barrichello third, Hakkinen fourth, down to the hairpin.
Now Barrichello's just got to get a good run out of him. He can, if he just keeps his head, keeps it calm through, but Villeneuve too wise. He kept it steady in the middle, slowed down a little bit and got himself sorted out for a good slingshot out. And Barrichello comes up the inside one more time, and this time it's going to stick. And for sure, Verstappen is in the pits with a problem. I think his engine blew, put Coulthard straight off the racetrack. Coulthard having a nightmare afternoon.
Well, this is a nightmare for McLaren too, because now Ferrari is first and Ferrari is second as Barrichello tears off one of the tear-off strips from his visor, throws it away. Now we can expect to see him pull away from Jacques Villeneuve, who is looking in his mirror, determined to stay on the podium by keeping Mika Hakkinen behind him. But Hakkinen is going to be absolutely determined to get past, because he realises that now with two Ferraris in front of him, the best that he can hope to get is 4 World Championship points if they go the distance, and that is even if he gets past Jacques Villeneuve, and that's going to be very, very difficult. So now Schumacher 27-7, we haven't seen much of him. Here it is again.
Yes, this is down into the hairpin, and well, we saw Rubens have a slightly better run out of the previous corner, and he positioned his car well. Jack had no defence on that one. He really had no way of closing the door once Barrichello got his car up alongside.
And just look at the way Barrichello is now pulling away from the battle between Villeneuve and Hakkinen for third position. And look at the two Jordans now, because Frentzen is fifth. There he is. Behind him is Jarno Trulli. So both the Jordans are in the points, and we've still got 43 laps to go.
It's obviously just a little bit moist out there. They've dropped about 2 to 3 seconds per lap. Michael Schumacher now has picked up speed again at the front, so that little flurry of rain that came across is now, I can just see still spitting with rain out there. It's cost them about a couple of 3 seconds a lap, except for Michael Schumacher.
Well, that dreaded turn 15 has only been hit once this year, and that was by Pedro Diniz in the Sauber this morning, and he deranged the nose and the suspension of the car. So far, everybody's been able to keep away from the Quebec wall, as it's called, because of the Quebec poster that's attached to it. But there's very heavy rumble strips on the inside. You've got to keep clear of those. Villeneuve second, Hakkinen third. The gap between them, you can see for yourself. And I'm sorry, it's Villeneuve third and Hakkinen fourth. And the two Jordans, fifth and sixth. Now, seventh position is Ricardo Zonta. He's 3.5 seconds behind Jarno Trulli's Jordan. And that's the second of the yellow cars you're looking at in the background. So it's a great race for BAR if they can keep going, because both their drivers are in the top 7 as Trulli nips past Heinz-Harald Frentzen, his teammate, and takes 5th position away from him. And Trulli is the man to watch, the multiple kart champion of Europe, who then became German Formula 3 champion. Here it is again. Let's have a look.
Yes, and just the same as we saw really with Barrichello passing Villeneuve. Trulli takes a big step up the inside, gets track position, and there's no defending that once they've got their car alongside. Otherwise, you'll just tear the wheels off of both cars. So Hakkinen there still struggling to pass Villeneuve. And now we've got Schumacher and Barrichello back in the 120.9s. The only other man anywhere near that was Coulthard, who did 20.9 last time around, but the rest of them late 1 minute 21s.
Lap 28, positions and gaps. Schumacher, 26 seconds. Barrichello, 3 seconds. Villeneuve, 0.2 of a second. Hakkinen, there they are. Trulli, 2.5 seconds behind Hakkinen, and now a second ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is in 6th position. Ricardo Zonta is 7th. Fisichella in the Benetton is moving up through the field. He's in 8th position. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams that we've heard nothing about, who started down in 12th position, has now carved his way up to 9th place. Alesi is 10th. David Coulthard, having lost those 2 places when he went off, is down in 11th place. Terrible luck for him.
Well, new fastest lap there, as you can see, from Michael Schumacher, 1:20.2. That's faster than last year's race. So now any moisture on the racetrack clearly has gone. And that is Hakkinen trying desperately hard still to put the frighteners on Villeneuve. Villeneuve will have nothing of it, and he, as I predicted, he was certainly struggling more on that damp track. Now the track has come good again. Villeneuve should be back to being able to hold off Hakkinen.
Well, this has not been a good circuit for Jacques Villeneuve in his first year here with the Williams. He ended up in the Quebec wall. He finished second to Damon Hill the next year. Then the next year he went into the wall again. So for him to be up here in third position is a very considerable achievement. But Rubens Barrichello is increasing his speed now. He's just done the fastest lap of the race to reduce his gap between himself and the leader, Michael Schumacher, to just over 26 seconds. And in the process, he is now 4.5 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve. There is Villeneuve with Hakkinen behind him. And Ferrari are on a potential 16 World Championship points to the 3 World Championship points that Mika Hakkinen will score for McLaren if he finishes in 4th place. And of course it's potentially extending Michael Schumacher's already considerable World Championship lead, but there's still a long way to go. Now look back and you'll see David Coulthard.
Yes, Coulthard making his way down the field for one reason or another with his stop-go penalty, spinning off on Verstappen's oil. But watching there earlier on, 2 or 3 corners before, Hakkinen quite clearly has a much better car under braking than Villeneuve. If he can get anywhere near him, he will slip past, but he just can't get close enough bite out of the corners to stay close enough to have a stab. So while Coulthard is on the back of that pack, we're going to take a quick break. Be back shortly. Behind him, and this is why they've got to change some aspects of the design of these cars, because they just are too difficult to overtake with.
And they're too difficult to overtake because the air behind Villeneuve's BAR Honda is so disturbed that Mika Hakkinen will be losing downforce from the front wing of his McLaren, as a result of which he gets less grip on the front tyres. And it's the front brakes, incidentally, which take an enormous pounding here. Here is Michael Schumacher closing up on Gaston Mazzucane's Minardi. He is in 20th position and he is about to be lapped. Now, this is the first man to be lapped, other, of course, than Johnny Herbert and Eddie Irvine, both of whom are out of the race very early in their Jaguars. Now, Mazzucane, I hope for Michael Schumacher's sake, is keeping a very careful eye on his mirrors. He ought to be, because there's nothing in front of him.
Ferrari mechanics in the pit lane, Murray. So I don't know who that may be for. It could be for Barrichello if he started the race on a little bit less fuel to give him a half a chance of sprinting past the McLarens off the line. Mazzucane moves out of the way, lets Michael through on the racing line, and we await to see which Ferrari is going to make a stop. I would say it's quite early to be making, if they're on a one-stopper, it's quite early to be making that stop, but it clearly doesn't mean to say they've got to come in twice. So Michael has got enough of a lead to be able to do it, 25.2 seconds. It will put him behind Barrichello, but I'm assuming he's not on more stops than Barrichello.
There is Barrichello. This is a surprise to me, actually, but it's exactly in line with James Allen's forecast. He said expect people round about lap 35. Well, it's lap 34 now. I was expecting some of them to stay out until as late as lap 50, as in comes Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and he slipped down through the field.
They're not ready for him, Murray. I'm looking out of the pit lane, and they're they're just coming out. Look, so I don't know what's going on there. Maybe Louise, what can you tell us?
Well, the team obviously caught unawares there. Frentzen has been having a problem with his brakes. That it was actually a team decision to allow Trulli to come through because Heinz-Harald was slow with his brakes.
Schumacher in, Louise. I'm sorry. Schumacher in. Michael Schumacher, from the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix, comes into the pit lane at a maximum speed of 80 kilometres an hour. Now, he should be able to almost get out before Rubens Barrichello arrives. The gap was 25 seconds. It's a comparatively relaxed stop. They're adjusting the front wing angle here. Was something... Well, that's a long stop, 9 seconds, but nobody... There's Barrichello. Barrichello goes through into the lead. Michael Schumacher is second.
Seemed to be a certain amount of uncertainty, really, about Michael's right rear, and they are pulling Frentzen out of the race. Louise, what can you tell us?
Well, yeah, as I was saying, Frentzen was having a problem with his brakes. It's turned into a terminal problem. The team were expecting him to come in about 3 or 4 laps' time. As we saw, he came and caught them totally unawares. He made the decision himself that the brake problem had got too bad. Nothing for him to do but pull into the garage and retire.
And Mika Häkkinen is ahead, unseen by us, of Jacques Villeneuve. So, Rubens Barrichello leads, Michael Schumacher is second, and Mika Häkkinen is there. There's a replay as you see them coming down into turn 1. Michael Schumacher leading the race. Mika Häkkinen attacks, goes through on the inside of Jacques Villeneuve, who didn't seem to resist him at all.
No, I think Villeneuve's ailing a little bit somewhere. We said, and we could see, there's a... What was that? Some blue smoke coming out of the back of the Prost Peugeot there. Whether he's getting a bit too hard on it, no, that's a problem there. That's history, that one. But it seemed that Häkkinen was getting better and better under braking than the BAR, and yes, that didn't get very far, did it?
Fire there. There's probably a bit of oil that's burning, and the marshals seem to be taking their time about getting there with the fire extinguishers. He's on the exit to the pit lane, so there should be all the facilities in the world. Meantime, the Prost mechanics are getting agitated there, and it really is time that somebody was on the scene with a fire extinguisher there.
Well, bearing in mind that it's got a top exit exhaust, I think it's only a bit of oil, a little bit of an oil fire coming out through the exhaust. It will migrate eventually if they don't do something about it. Well, but I don't see it going up in a big ball of flame any minute now.
Now, the man to watch is Mika Häkkinen, who is literally a man released. He's got ahead of Jacques Villeneuve. There is still half the race to run. We're on lap 36 now in this lap 39 lap race. And there is the Jordan running wide onto the grass as he goes into the casino hairpin, and through on the inside go Fisichella and Ralf Schumacher, who have thereby increased their position. Heinz-Harald Frentzen into the garage, out of the race. Here is the race leader, Rubens Barrichello, on his 36th lap. Turn 14, the dreaded turn 50. Look how close he gets to the wall. But David Coulthard was a lot closer to that yesterday. Michael Schumacher in second position, and I'm looking at lap times here.
Yeah, bear in mind, of course, that Michael has got a lot of fuel on board now. Barrichello getting towards an empty tank. Fuel plays a big part around here, around 0.4 of a second per 10 kilos. So Michael will have a lot of fuel on board. As we know, he's just made a pit stop, and you would expect Barrichello to stretch that lead as we see a Lacey in for what looks like a scheduled stop.
And Mika Häkkinen has just made the fastest lap of the race. He's now just under 7 seconds behind Michael Schumacher and catching the Ferrari. This race has still got a long way to go. Nick Heidfeld walking in, another retirement. His first year in Formula One is not a happy one.
A stall there for a Lacey. We see that so often with Jean, and that's going to cost him a good half a minute while they get that up and running. So a desperately bad stop. James, what can you tell us?
Well, you were observing that Ross Brawn was taking a very good look at the right rear corner of Michael Schumacher's car in that pit stop. I can tell you what he was looking at was the rear brake disc. Michael obviously slightly concerned about the brake wear. Huge braking here at Canada, but he's apparently perfectly happy now. He is, as you say, carrying a big fuel load. But what he's done here today is divide the race in half, confident that he would be able to get a decent run at the start, obviously looking for a bit less fuel for off the line, and also confident that the other teams, McLaren and Jordan in particular, would run longer in their first stint, which does seem to be what's happening here.
Yes, James, I would think it's Michael wouldn't have, I'm sure you're right on why they were looking at it. Michael wouldn't have that data. He would not know about brake wear until the brakes start fading away. But of course they do have telemetry back in the pits, and they do know exactly what the brake or clutch wear is at any one time.
Well, meantime, Mika Häkkinen has just lapped 2.5 seconds faster than the man you're looking at, Michael Schumacher, who is second in the race. But Michael Schumacher has already stopped. Rubens Barrichello ahead of him has not. There is Mika Häkkinen in third position. 4.5 seconds now behind Michael Schumacher. But Mika Häkkinen has not stopped. So you would expect Häkkinen on a lighter fuel load to be closing up on the much heavier Ferrari, which has just taken on more fuel to last it for the rest of the race. So it's not surprising, but it is interesting.
Jenson Button in 14th place, back down the field. He's gained from a few of the retirements. Coulthard still nailed back down there in 9th. Irvine running, but 2 laps behind. Zonta's doing a good job. Murray up there in 6th place in the sister car to this, which is Villeneuve in the BAR, coming down once again to the last chicane. And he certainly had plenty of fuel on board, didn't he? Because he's gone a long way into this race. 38, he's just coming up to finish his 38th lap. The leader, Michael Schumacher, and Barrichello rather, already into their 39th.
Well, when is Mika Häkkinen coming in? Michael Schumacher, of course, is going to be mighty difficult, to put it mildly, indeed, to pass, even if Mika Häkkinen thinks he can do so. But we've seen Mika get past Jacques Villeneuve, the man you're looking at now. And Villeneuve has got Jarno Trulli in the yellow Jordan behind him in 5th place. The top 6 at the present moment, lap 39, 30 to go. Barrichello leads Schumacher by nearly 7 seconds. Häkkinen is 3 seconds behind Schumacher. Villeneuve is 7 seconds behind Häkkinen, and just ahead of Jarno Trulli. There is the proof, you see it on your picture. Ricardo Zonta in the second BAR is another 7 seconds down the road. But both the BARs are in a point-scoring position at the moment. Jacques Villeneuve, 4th position. Ricardo Zonta, 6th position. BAR have had a very torrid time getting into Formula One for all sorts of reasons. But hopefully from their point of view, because they've made a monumental effort, things are starting to come good at Canada, where their low downforce configuration and good car handling is paying off. 7th is Fisichella, 8th is Ralf Schumacher, who is catching the Benetton ahead of him. Into the pits comes Jarno Trulli from 5th position, taking the pressure off Jacques Villeneuve.
Yes, I'm sure the Jordan mechanics will be ready. Clearly, Frenson's pit stop was unscheduled, although it looked like the mechanics were out late. That was not the case. Frenson diving into the pit lane, and you saw him retire. This is truly, and what looks like, a pretty regular stop for him. Remember, a lot of fuel got to go in to get him to the end of the race. Everything looks just fine on that, and out of the pits he goes.
You may have noticed the enormous brake ducts that the cars have here. This is Gaston Mazzacane, and here coming towards him to lap him is Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR.
So Häkkinen then has dropped Villeneuve now by a full 8 seconds. So Häkkinen really... And look, that's Häkkinen homing in on Michael Schumacher. But remember, Schumacher has already stopped. And as I said, he's got about 60 to 70 kilos of fuel on board that Ferrari now. And he will not... There's a white flag, so that means a slow car passing under that yellow bridge. You'll see something appear the other side. That must be a Lacey,
yes,
who'd already had a very long stop. That's both Prosts out of the race. And it's not at all surprising to see Häkkinen homing in on Schumacher because only of the fuel loads.
Well, this is a race of attrition. It's taken a lot longer for cars to drop out than I expected. But Herbert's out, Frenson's out, Heidfeld's out, Eddie Irvine is out. And actually, by this time last year, we'd had the safety car out on the track twice, if not 3 times. And last year, history was created because the Canadian Grand Prix of 1999 was the first one to finish behind the safety car. It actually led them across the line, and about 5 seconds covered the first 6 home.
That's De La Rosa in the pits for his second stop, although I'm surprised he's in again quite so early. And Salo too, and Genet, so plenty of action going on in the pits. This is the current scrap for second place between Schumacher and Häkkinen. And I remind you, Michael has already stopped once, and that big cloud of dust you see every time they hit the brakes into corners is the problem around here. They're limited to 28mm wide, just over an inch wide of brake disc, and they simply wear it out. It's so efficient in terms of its stopping capacity, but the carbon wears away, and look, there's all that dust again, and the pads wear away too, both of them. You lose all the meat off them, the pedal starts going very, very long towards the end of the race, or as we saw with Frenson here last year, they pop completely and send you flying off the road.
Now, these are the 2 best drivers of this year on the track together. Twice world champion Michael Schumacher, twice world champion Mika Häkkinen. Schumacher looking for his 3rd victory in the championship, and Häkkinen doing exactly the same thing. But there is a long way between them in terms of points, because there's 15 points between the two of them. It's going to be mighty interesting at the end of this race to see what's happening, because there will be some furious thinking going on in the McLaren pit. They're running to very different strategies. You've already seen, and here is Villeneuve coming in, and down there is Jenson Button. Jenson Button coming in from, well, in 12th position. All calm and deliberate, and the Williams, but it's quite a long stop, 10.6 seconds, and Jenson Button explodes out. His teammate, incidentally, Ralf Schumacher, is in 7th position. And do I see spots of rain on the window of the commentary box?
Yeah, there's
yes,
a few.
Indeed I do.
And I also see the McLaren mechanics out in the pit lane. So, and that's why.
Here's Häkkinen. Here is Mick.